Chapter 1. Almost 17 years later. Mallory had an hour to herself after school before she had to be at practice, so she ducked into the only independent coffee shop in Smithfield for some overpriced, oversweetened coffee. Admittedly, she'd spent more of the hour thinking about Kaleb than doing her homework, but AP Physics wasn't nearly as interesting as the first boy she'd felt at ease around. She'd even told him the names of a couple of the towns where she'd lived over the years, and talked about her family. And the moment she'd done that, she'd realized she needed to stay away from him. Anyone who made her let her guard down that much was dangerous. As she returned her empty mug to the counter, she looked out the large front window and saw Kaleb standing across the street from Java Junkies, as if she'd conjured him with her thoughts. Admittedly, Smithfield was a tiny town, so she bumped into Kaleb every time he was home from school, which seemed to be a lot lately. Still, Mallory felt the same warm flush of excitement she did every time she saw him, and then quashed it. Bad idea. Very, very bad. She lowered her gaze, suddenly finding the words painted on the door fascinating, and stepped onto the sidewalk with her eyes still downcast. She should be scanning the area for danger, but all she wanted to do was look at Kaleb. She stole a glance at him and debated going over to at least say hello. Nothing could come of it. She knew it, but she couldn't bring herself to tell him that. It was foolishness, but she wanted something to come of it. She'd never felt so instantly at ease or so embarrassingly attracted to anyone. Telling him to go away wasn't something she could bring herself to do, despite how inevitable it was. Instead, she walked away, forcing herself not to look at him. She let her gaze wander over the flowers and planters along the street, the man in the rumpled suit playing his cello for change, the debris that accumulated in gutters, anything but the boy who had occupied all of her free thoughts the past month. She hadn't gone more than a few steps when Kaleb caught up with her. "Are you ignoring me?" "No," she lied. His voice always made her want to shiver. Kaleb's voice was like dark chocolate, so rich that she felt strangely sinful listening to him talk about the most mundane things. She resisted the temptation to close her eyes. He stepped closer to her. "So you didn't just see me and walk away?" "Maybe," Mallory half admitted. If she needed to, she could put him on the ground, but Kaleb wasn't an enemy. He was just a guy. She stole another glance at him. Just a guy? He was 6 feet of lean muscle, perpetually unruly hair, and eyes that were too dark to be called brown. To add to his allure, he had a ferocity to him that slipped out when he looked around the street. He'd only ever been sweet to her, but he had an attitude that hinted at an ability to wade into trouble. It gave her a foolish hope that he could handle the world she knew, even as logic warned her that she was clinging to illusions. Until she'd met Kaleb, she'd actually worried that something was wrong with her. Her classmates had started talking about boys or girls a few years ago, but she was almost 17, and until the past month, she'd never had the sort of reactions they all talked about. The forget-your-name nervousness, the racing heart, the why did I say that? It was as foreign to her as a life without witches, until Kaleb. He made her wish for things that were impossible, for a life that she could never have. The sound of the cars on the street drew her attention, and her gaze slipped away to check the shadows for threats. "Mallory?" "Yes." Her hand went to the pendant she wore under her blouse. The reasons she shouldn't see him, the need to see him, the way she had lied to him. Thinking about all of that made her feel horrible inside. "I'm glad I found you," he said. He moved in, so he stood just a shade closer than could be considered polite, and she wondered what he'd do if she thanked him for evoking the blush-worthy thoughts she was having. She realized he was watching her expectantly, but she wasn't able to admit that she was happy to see him too. Instead, she said, "I didn't expect you." "I just got into town," he said. She started. "I need to go. Do you want to go somewhere?" he asked at the same time. They both stopped. She shifted the bag on her shoulder, surreptitiously adjusting